Welcome to the Instagram stories for Wednesday, January 21st. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. Today on the show, we have some TikTok news. They've released their 2026 trend report, and longtime listener of the show, Casey Ross, is going to stop by to give us the highlights. We'll also hear from the YouTube team with some of the improvements that they've been working on around content management and the video settings page. I'll also share a clip of a really interesting podcast that I listened to recently called Preparing for the Creator Economy Apocalypse, and it's an interview with an actor named Chris Gethard. If you're not familiar with him, he is an actor and a comedian. You've seen him on many things. If you saw his face, you'd be like, oh yeah, that guy. He shares some really interesting things about the creator economy and some of the social media platforms that I never thought about before. You're going to like it. And at the end, after the music, I will do Wednesday Waffle. I am continuing the story of how I hired two actresses to sit next to my wife and I in a restaurant and tell dating stories, and my wife had no idea. All of that and more on today's episode, but first, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back. Let's get into the news, and starting with TikTok. They released their 2026 trend report. I will link to this entire report in the show notes so you can check it out. But to explain what's in it and give you the highlights, here's a longtime listener of the show, Casey Ross.
Hi, I'm Casey Ross. I work as a social media and creator strategist, and I've been listening to the Instagram Stories podcast for nearly 3 years. It's helpful because it really keeps me up to date on all things social media in a very easily digestible format. And today I wanted to talk about TikTok's 2026 trend report. The theme this year, irreplaceable instinct. And the report is broken down into 3 trends. Trend number 1, reality, but T is spelled T-E-A. Trend number 2, curiosity detours. And trend number 3, emotional ROI. So within these 3 trends, 2 things really jumped out to me. Number 1, the comment section. TikTok acknowledges how the comment section continues to be one of the most interesting places on social. TikTok calls out how comments are evolving into creative spaces of their own. One line that I loved said, TikTok comment photo reacts are creating a new visual language. Audiences are stacking reactions, reviving memes, and making the comments a space of their own. They also say brands should treat comments as a creative surface, not an afterthought. And maybe most importantly, TikTok says comments are a verification hub. It's where people are going for validation before they make a purchase. They look to their trusted community for that validation. And the second thing that really jumped out to me is TikTok saying brands should move away from glossy influencer culture and move toward real creators. This line I really liked. As the gloss of influencer culture wears off, creators are stepping into the spotlight, valued for honesty, craft, and community over clout. And I couldn't agree with this line more. I want less polish. I want more credibility. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you want to view this report, there'll be a link in the show notes. And if you want to connect with me, you could find me on LinkedIn at Casey, spelled C-A-S-E-Y, Ross, R-O-S-S. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Casey. I really love having different voices on the show, especially those of you who listen. If you've been listening for a while and you would like to make an audio segment for the show, I would love to have you do that. I'm happy to even write up a script to get you started. Send me a DM at Daniel Hill Media. You can pick any topic as long as it's social media related, whether it's news or strategy or something else. Let's work together on it. Now let's move on to the YouTube news. The team at YouTube is improving the flow of uploading new videos and how their content management system works, along with an update to the video settings page. To explain more, here's Lauren from the YouTube Creator Insider team.
What's up, Insiders? I'm Lauren, your producer and product team program manager. I'm pulling back the curtain on our latest features today, so let's dive in. To simplify the creator experience on the YouTube main app, we're consolidating multiple entry points to the video list on mobile. The Manage Videos entry point on the channel page will be removed, and the Your Videos entry point on the U tab will direct creators to the channel page. Going forward, creators will be redirected to their channel page after video creation so that all video management can be done directly on the channel page tabs, such as videos, shorts, and live. The goal is to simplify and streamline the YouTube main app, making it easier for creators to manage all of their content directly on the channel page. We'll leave more information below. Moving on, Last year, we talked about experimental improvements we made to our video settings screen in the form of 3 variations we were testing on Studio Mobile and the YouTube main app. We're happy to share that we're now rolling out one of the variations that will include a Show More expander with grouped fields instead of a list of settings which was previously shown. For creators in our YouTube shopping program, a product tag field will also be shown. The goal is to make managing content more intuitive, lightweight, and accessible. And that's it for this week. From the creators of YouTube to YouTube creators, we'll see you next week.
Nothing revolutionary there, but it's nice to see YouTube working so hard to try to improve the experience for creators when it comes to uploading videos. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear from comedian and actor Chris Gethard as he talks about the creator economy and what he thinks will happen in the future where someone will improve on all the systems and algorithms that we are spending our lives chasing. Stick around. Welcome back. I listened to a really good podcast from Vulture called Good One. And in this episode, comedian Chris Gethard, who is an actor as well, talked about some of the challenges around the creator economy, what he thinks will happen in the future, and how someone will, at some point, build an offline alternative to all the social media things that we deal with today. Here's the clip.
So many movements, both political and artistic, have come when people find interesting ways to control information off the grid. One of the things about the American Revolution that I got so nerdy about was that you realize part of what got it over the finish line of enthusiasm was when Benjamin Franklin insisted on building postal roads so you could send mail directly from Boston to South Carolina. It didn't have to go through London. London no longer controlled the flow of information. One of my favorite documentaries of all time is Style Wars, which is a look at the Bronx graffiti movement from the start in the mid-'70s up until the mid-'80s. And I look at that and I go, man, that is a part of the world that was forgotten. And then a bunch of artistic kids went, we exist. Like, to me, the premise behind most of it is we will not allow you to forget that we exist. I have a name. You will know my name. I exist. You can't forget us. What is the pathway of information that's a true alternative? Because I hate to bust the bubble. And I want people to keep making money. But YouTube ain't DIY.
Yeah.
Ticket sales through Live Nation, not DIY. Being on platforms controlled by Mark Zuckerberg, they might feel DIY today. The second he personally decides that things are happening that he doesn't want out there, they're gone.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because the interview is super long, but I love the point that he makes about how the Revolutionary War really gained steam once people realized that their mail did not have to go to London and the gatekeepers were eliminated from the process. Think about that with respect to Instagram, TikTok. You want to reach the people who want to hear from you, but yet you're going through these gatekeepers. Why? I love this whole interview. I will link to it in the show notes. That is it for today's show. If you want to hear Wednesday Waffle, where I talk about part 2 of a story that I started last week about a surprise gift that I gave my wife that she actually didn't realize was a gift, you can listen after the music.
Instagram news got you covered, sometimes even TikTok. Relevant platforms in the metaverse ahead of the wave without a break or a pit stop. Still waiting for Zuckerberg to give me the big job. Pause. Use trademarks and logos with Insta's permission, of course. If you like the show and you gain some good info, maybe leave a review. It's a type of applause. Just drop me a message if you want to collab. If you got some good content or you want to run ads, at Daniel Hill Media is where I am. TikTok, Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, hey, thanks for sticking around. If you didn't hear part 1 of the story, I told it last week on the Wednesday Waffle. The story is essentially, my wife and I were having our 20th anniversary. I wanted to do something special for her, so I hired actresses to sit at the table next to us and tell stories to each other. As soon as we sat down and the 2 actresses started telling stories, my wife started kicking me under the table and texting me what was going on so that I could pay attention. Obviously, I could hear them. I was sitting right next to them. Once we left the restaurant, this is really where things got so much better because my wife did not realize that I had hired these actresses and she began to tell her friends the stories that they were telling. Even more, her and her friends launched a podcast and Lauren spent a considerable amount of time on one of the episodes telling her friends on the podcast the conversation that we overheard. I was so proud of this because as people listened to the podcast, some of them were friends of Lauren's that I had told ahead of time, hey, this is an idea I'm working on. So they were sending me messages as they were listening to the podcast. And as we have been going out and seeing some of our friends, I've been able to tell them, hey, have you been listening to Lauren's podcast? Did you listen to this episode where she talked about this scenario? Yes, I made that happen. That was all manufactured. But there was a problem with this whole thing, which is that at some point I needed to tell my wife the truth. I couldn't die with this secret. That's not fair. So thankfully, her and her friends invited me on the podcast. And we went through the whole podcast episode talking about a variety of different topics. And then at the end of the podcast episode, I said, I have a surprise. I would like to give my wife part 3 of her anniversary gift. And I filmed this part. Don't worry, I'm going to make a video. She opened up the envelope, and inside I had written, I hired actresses to sit next to us at a restaurant and tell wild stories. And everyone who was in the room was dying laughing. That is going to be a podcast episode on the Voice Notes podcast, which I will link to in the show notes. It will be available to listen to on Friday to hear what it was like for me to tell my wife that this whole thing had been a bit that I had been running for 2 months at this point. Super fun. It's just continuing to be the gift that keeps on giving, mostly for my entertainment. Okay, thank you for listening to me talk. As always, I really appreciate you listening to the show and letting me share a bit of personal information or other topics besides social media on the Wednesday Waffle.